This special episode of the Managing Madrid Podcast is brought to you by Tempo by Hilton Times Square, proud hosts of today's podcast in New York City, where myself, Kiyan Sobhani, the OG Managing Madrid founder, Gabe Lezra, as well as Kyle Bond of the Sporting News and Madridistas live in attendance, dissected Real Madrid's Club World Cup campaign and next steps in the Xabi Alonso era. This is our final sign-off from New York City, final reflections, if you will. I put together about 26 minutes of clips from this podcast, and the whole recording was about an hour and a half, plus, just hanging around and socializing with the Madridistas who were there. So we didn't post the full thing, but I'm just super thankful for everyone who came out in New York. It was lovely meeting so many new faces. And a couple of recurring ones from other podcasts as well. So you guys are awesome. New York, special place in our hearts. Really fun vibes today. Had a lot of fun. Enjoyed the entire day with you guys. Thank you for coming out. And again, this is about 26 minutes of clips where we talk about Vini and Mbappe and Club World Cup reflections, the vibes from this tournament behind the scenes, and what's next, what's to come. As always, make sure if you're in New York at any point in your life, including the upcoming World Cup next year, make sure to book your stay at Tempo by Hilton Times Square. Let's get to it.
Nice article in the Managing Madrid blog. Wonderful lads that do a great job there. And worth reading about that man there. Karim Benzema needs to rest, and the numbers reveal why.
Times ended up almost looking like a 6-3-1. Some very good writing about that on the Managing Madrid website. First-rate podcast as well. Of course, Fede Valverde was a huge part of the equation.
And here's the new beginnings. It's going to be a pretty interactive podcast. And I'm so glad that you guys came out because, New York is a very special place for us as well for emotional reasons. We've been here many times. The last time that I actually saw Gabe was a podcast in New York with our beloved Om. Rest in peace. And this place is always going to have a special place in our heart, as will Om, forever in our hearts. And if you guys have been listening for years, you will know how special Om was to the podcast. Someone asked me, I think it was you, how did Managing Madrid start or what year it started? And as you know, I wasn't entirely sure because I joined after it started. But you know better than anyone. Can you give us the background?
Yes, absolutely. Also, hi everyone. It's great to see some faces, some old friends. Good to see you guys. So we started the website in the 2010-2011 season as a blog spot. I don't know if anyone's old enough to remember that shit. And it was writing blog spots. Yeah, which was a lot of fun. It was kind of janky. We used it though mostly as a vehicle to launch the podcast. So the podcast actually arguably came before the site, which was interesting.
I didn't know that.
And we did, cover the 2010-2011 season, which was not great, but it wasn't super discouraging like a couple of previous years. And then at the end of the year, we were approached by our friend Kim McCauley, and she wanted to bring it to SB Nation. SB Nation basically didn't exist then. It was like this tiny little organization that just popped up. This was before Vox, before all of the stuff that the organization became. And we sort of got into the ground floor of Managing Madrid. Previously, SB Nation really only covered a number of MLS teams, and then like Chelsea, and I think one or two other EPL teams. So we were among the first non-EPL, non-MLS teams covered. And then we really launched in, I think it's fair to say, 2011, 2012. Beautiful year, great year to launch. I covered it with Josh, and then that's when I met Lucas. I can't remember when we met, but I think it was around then also, Kiyan. And started growing the talent, growing the base we had working. with us. So.
I had sent Lucas an email, 2015, I think it was. And I was like, at that point, I was covering the NBA. I was covering the Toronto Raptors.
I remember.
And I emailed him like my resume and everything. And then he emailed me back. He's like, hey, dude, we can't pay you and you're overqualified. And I was like, dude, I'm really not overqualified. I'll do whatever. Just let me do this. And then
one of the great hires, truly. Yeah, I remember that as well. And like the non-paid contributor stuff was a big part of the early days at SB Nation. And we found a bunch of people who were incredibly talented just because like Owen did the same thing, just emailed.
Yeah.
It was like just the fact that you emailed me.
Matt did the same. I think Matt emailed you.
Yeah.
And I was like, who's this guy?
It's like,
Gabe,
I don't know.
There's a guy named Matt. He wants to be on the podcast. I was like, yeah, so does everybody else. Turned out he was awesome.
Yeah. There's a lot of serendipity in these things.
Yes.
You catch the podcast wave, I was saying it very earlier, like that was like the golden age of podcasts, like 2010 through like 2015. And we sort of launched, and then you and Lucas kept it going real well. And yeah.
So how many of you guys have been listening to the podcast in like the Ohm days? Like, okay. So like fourth of the room, maybe. I mean, I always feel nostalgic, like with that era, like, that Andy Bernard quote in The Office where he's like, I wish you knew when you're in the good old days so you can enjoy them when you're in it. And I was like, those are the good old days. Like, it's just such a different game now, it's just different, we're still doing it. We're still having fun, but it's just different. Yeah. So anyways, enough about that. Let's talk about the more pressing matter.
If you guys have questions about that, we can deal with that later. But
yeah. So I think the big talking point, obviously, is where is Real Madrid headed? What have we seen in the Club World Cup so far? And should we be optimistic? Should we be pessimistic? The conversation is a lot about Mbappe and Vini coexisting. What the hell is going on with our defense? And all this stuff. And I wanted to ask you, what have you observed so far from the Xabi Alonso era?
I mean, this is the first time we've had significant change at this club in quite some time. So, you have to go back to, Solari, right? That era.
Another dark era.
Yeah. And that kind of moment in time after Zidane, that was the last time people came in and tried to change the team. So there's going to be hiccups. They're going to be bounced from the road. But what I've been really enjoying is like there's a lot more energy. It feels like the team is more energetic. I also really like, I was telling Kiyan this earlier, I feel like Xabi is trying to build something that's a little bit more modern. Like it's a flexible team that, especially on defense, where you're going to be moving people in and out, that is going to take some time to figure out. All of it is going to take a little bit of time to figure out. But it is an exciting version of Real Madrid. And I think Trent Alexander-Arnold is actually a really interesting he is a good embodiment of this. He is someone, and I'm sure you guys have talked about this, but he has extremely good offensive stats, like shockingly good.
Yes.
So, and he's not as great as a defender, but because of that, he's extremely versatile because he is the defender. He can play defense, but like you're also getting this big addition to the team that, is critically important as the modern game evolves.
Right. Yeah. I think, and I'd be really interested to hear Kyle's perspective too, as someone who's been covering the team on the ground throughout the tournament. But I have to tell you that like I've been there since day one of the tournament. So this precedes the Al Hilal game. The day before, that was my first day covering this tournament. The only game I missed in person was the Dortmund game. And I have to say, like, the energy and the excitement has been quite positive. And the PSG thing kind of just put everything to a halt and put everyone into like a panic stage. But I think if you zoom out and look at the baby steps and the progress in this limited time under Xabi Alonso, it's exciting. He's going to have, to me, very obvious challenges and some big decisions to make that I think are going to be extremely difficult to make at a club like Real Madrid. And it's going to probably require benching a big name. And that's not easy, because even if you quote unquote have the balls to do it, once you do it, there's going to be attacks from the media, attacks from players' agents and entourages and fans. And if you're winning, I think you can keep those people quiet. It'll work. If you're losing in the process, I think the writing's on the wall. But I do believe in Xabi Alonso, but I'm cognizant of the fact that I think it's going to be difficult for him to navigate. Anyways, I think a lot of the encouraging things we saw from day one was that everyone spoke about how different this is. All the players were speaking about it. Xabi Alonso was talking about what he wants to implement. It was a lot of high energy, a lot of pressing, a lot of control, a lot of collectiveness, cohesiveness, all that stuff. And, which game was it that Fran Garcia looked like Roberto Carlos? Was it Juve? Dortmund? Dortmund. And after the game, he was talking about this is what Xabi wants me and Trent to do. He was so excited. He felt empowered. He spent the last season just basically being a pylon in a system where Vini gets the ball on the left wing. Yeah. He's expected to cook 2-3 defenders. Fran Garcia, doesn't matter what run he makes, he's kind of redundant. We don't pass you the ball. And I think he just felt important for the first time at Real Madrid. And you see all these little things, and then you see how Goulet is performing. Yeah. And Gonzalo Garcia. And it's just it was really good energy. It was really good vibes. And then everything we saw that was supposed to be implemented went out the window against PSG. Yeah. And Courtois said after the game, look, that wasn't what Xabi Alonso told us to do. That wasn't our game plan. And God bless Courtois, not only because he's an unbelievable goalkeeper, thank God for him, but also because he's just so honest after the game. That's right. He doesn't sugarcoat it. He doesn't try to be dance around, dancing on eggshells or whatever. He just tells it like it is. And Xabi was saying, honestly, those two mistakes derailed us mentally. Yeah. We couldn't recover. Yeah. And so this is where we are. And I think obviously there's a common trend with, what happens when Mbappe enters the team and the dynamic with Vini and what happens to the defense. Arda Güler got a lot of criticism in that game against PSG. And in my opinion, I'm what do you want him to do? Yeah. PSG played one pass past the attacking defensive line, the first line of defense rather. And then Rudiger is stepping like a maniac. And then Güler all of a sudden has 4 PSG players to defend. What is he supposed to do in that situation, right? So I think everyone just looked bad in that game apart from Courtois. And that's the challenge he's going to have. Yeah,
and the flexibility angle again is what I mean, and what I've been talking about, which is if you're one of the key central defenders so far in this time young season is red carded in absolutely the stupidest way possible, so he can't play, right? And you're missing other key players from your defense. You don't even have the flexibility again to make changes that make sense at that point. You're going to be bringing in people who are extremely unqualified to play against the best team. Right?
Yes.
So I agree. I mean, I always try to find excitement and good things and change. And one of the things that really struck me was that some of those mistakes are just baby errors.
It didn't make sense.
It didn't make any sense. So you have to ask yourself, is this or are the other moments of this tournament more likely to occur in the future? And if we can deal with the errors in this game, aren't we more likely to get other games that are better, more exciting teams? So my instinct is that if Madrid can deal with that, they'll be in a pretty good place this year. Though the mentality issues is complicated. Even you need to not abandon your identity when you get punched in the face. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's very clear that you have a coach who has a very clear system and ideology he wants to implement, and that requires a certain defensive structure behind the ball, and it requires everyone to hit their defensive assignments. And if you have players in the team who are cool, coach, I'm not doing that, then what's the point of having him? So either he has to somehow work some miracles and get these players to buy in, or he has to literally just use the players who will listen in that situation. That's where I see it. And that's where I think it'll be difficult for him.
and it's fixable, right? But the biggest problem with this team right now is Vini. He is terrible at the moment, and it could be just form. It could be the change in situation, but he had a really bad season last year. He couldn't adapt to Mbappe being up front, and now under Xabi Alonso, he's going to have to press, and I 100% agree. The forwards pressing, the biggest issue against PSG was they got pressed out of the game. They got pressed out of the game. They couldn't deal with PSG's press, which is insane. So, I understand. But they couldn't deal with PSG's press, and they couldn't press back. Every time PSG had the ball, you said it took one pass past the forward line because they're static. They're just standing there. They were standing there in either a 4-4-2 diamond or the 4-3-3, and to just Vitinha one ball right through the forwards.
Yeah.
So Xabi Alonso has to get the best out of Vini, and probably with Gonzalo Garcia having an awesome tournament, and Xabi Alonso loving to have a number 9. He had a 9 at Bayer Leverkusen. So I have a good insight into Xabi Alonso because it just so happened that I got sent to Germany to cover Bayer Leverkusen in 2 years ago in 2023 and or 2022-23.
Yeah.
And did a whole profile on Xabi Alonso and his tactics, and he's an awesome coach. I was so impressed. He's super smart. He's very adaptable, and I got to watch training. I did a whole thing on him about how he's still the best passer in the team. And he even said it. Somebody asked him in our access with him. They were like, "Are you still the best passer in the team?" And he's like, "I really want to say the politically correct thing, but yeah."
That's hilarious.
Yeah, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm still the best passer."
So there's just a side note.
Yeah.
There's Jonathan Tah wrote an article in the Players Tribune, and he was recounting the story that he did a diagonal pass in training. And Xabi was like, "No, that's not how you do it." And then he's like, "Well, how do you do it?" And then Xabi Alonso showed him. He's like, "Dude, I can't do that."
So he's super smart. His tactical setup that he used at Bayer Leverkusen does not fit Real Madrid.
Yeah.
So I was fascinated to see Madrid's first few games at the Club World Cup. Be like, what happens? The 4-4-2 diamond made a ton of sense. Now you have Gonzalo Garcia, and now Xabi Alonso has his 9. And you go, okay, well, now Mbappe, you can put him in his best position again on the left. And you go, now what do you do with Vini? Okay, Vini can play on the right.
Yeah.
He stunk on the right against PSG. Now, everybody stunk against PSG, but he's got to figure that position out. Him figuring out playing on the right will make that whole team work. If he can't play on the right, now you have to figure out what to do with Vini. Do you bench him? Do you put him back on the left and put Mbappe back on the front and bench Gonzalo Garcia? Everything falls into place if he works on the right.
Well, I think it's the problem is a little bit even deeper than that, because even if he does play on the right, there's still the issue of, are these guys going to press together?
Yes. Yeah.
And that's what Xabi needs for everyone to do. And I think so. This is, I don't know if you were there in Miami for that Al Hilal game or not.
No.
So that was my first question to Xabi Alonso ever. I said, I'm going to just simplify it. It was a longer question, but I basically asked him, can Mbappe press? And
it's a very good question. Yeah.
I mean, Xabi is very careful. He will never mention names ever. He will never throw his players under the bus. And I remember even that last game against Juve, I was going to ask him look, press looked great so far up until this game. Now you feel these 3 attackers, so can you explain why it didn't work all of a sudden? Then the person before me said, are you worried about Vinicius and Mbappe up top together and their dynamic? And he said, I'm not going to mention anything about individuals. We're only going to talk about the team. So I kind of reword the question. But the reason I asked that is because of this very thing. It's my biggest question about Xabi Alonso is that he's so tactically astute. He has such a clear vision of what he wants to do. There's a reason why Bayer Leverkusen in the relegation zone all of a sudden went unbeaten, won the Bundesliga out of nowhere. And it was not by chance. It was not a fluke, right? And so actually he comes here, he does have the pieces in theory, but then the problem is he has pieces that he has to play because of their names. And so it's like, how is this going to work? Because we all saw the famous clip of Luis Enrique screaming at Mbappe, like, yo, Michael Jordan, the GOAT, plays defense. He's like, Mbappe's like, yeah. And so, like, this is my question. The weird phenomena, I think, is that Vinicius, we all in this room, I think, we saw Vinicius from the beginning. We saw him grow up within the club. He's one of us. And so, like, we're all kind of hurt about the situation. We want him to succeed. We love him. He was arguably the best player in the world. And the pressing thing, he pressed. Defensively, he worked his ass off under Solari, under Carlo. And even in this tournament, when he wasn't playing well, he worked hard on defense and he pressed. And then Mbappe, I cannot explain this. Put this on Unsolved Mysteries. When Mbappe is in the lineup, all of a sudden, he just looks at him and he's like, oh, well, if he's not doing it, I'm not doing it. And then all of a sudden, you have two players not pressing. And it's like,
this is an oversimplification, but if you just look at PSG with Mbappe and without Mbappe, PSG is now the best pressing team in the world. When you take one of the best players in the world out, and it's because he didn't press. And look, if you look at Ousmane Dembele, it was just before we started. Everything made sense. I saw PSG kick their kickoff in the second half, long and out of play.
Yes,
against Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Do you know why? Because it didn't make sense to me at the time. And I watched a video and someone was like, here's why. They kick it. They basically coffin corner it.
Yeah, so they can
do
press.
a deep throw in and immediately press. And Ousmane Dembele is the key. He's a pressing wizard. And when you take Mbappe, one of the best players in the world, out of PSG, they are like monumentally better. It's Ewing theory, but it's because of the pressing. And if you can get him to do it, and Vinny's issue is not pressing. He has a lot of other issues going on right now. But you are right. He's suddenly not doing it as much because he's seeing Mbappe. And Xabi Alonso worked so many miracles at Bayer Leverkusen. You see how many times they came back from losing positions, multiple goal losing positions. For him to say that those errors mentally destroyed us, that tells me he has a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I mean, because at no point should a mentally strong team just all of a sudden melt down after two mistakes. You still got to implement the game plan. And I just think it wasn't possible. And I think it wasn't just the mental aspect. It was also the fact that they just had holes defensively, tactically, and people were all over the place. So something you wanted to say about Mbappe and Vinicius and pressing. Oh, this. I think Vinny, a lot of people blame Vinny's demise. Demise is a strong word, just out of form, I'll put it that way, on Mbappe's arrival. And I think it's a bit of a cop-out excuse, if you ask me. The reason I say that is because I think what was more correlated to him going out of form was actually the Ballon d'Or thing. Before the Ballon d'Or, with Mbappe, he was actually playing really well. And he gets his left wing to himself. He still gets that. He didn't go out of position for Mbappe. Mbappe was one who played more central, right?
Yeah, but they often found themselves at each other's way.
I think so. They definitely did. I also completely agree that the offensive chemistry is not there. It's not Vinny and Benzema. And I think also part of the issue is, like, we've been watching this team for a long time. I don't see Mbappe having the leadership that Benzema had either. Yeah. I forget who was talking to before we were talking about it, right? Like that 17-18 team, they're all gone. Yeah. It's a totally different era. Like Carvajal is the last remaining piece. Modric gone, Cruz gone, Ramos gone, Benzema gone. All these leaders and I don't think we have that guy right now, apart from Fede Valverde, who's I'm worried about his head is going to pop off one day, because all he does on the field is just scream at his teammate. Like veins popping out of his neck. Like, see, for me, I mean, a lot has been made about like you can't field three attackers and press. Obviously, PSG and Barca have debunked that. It's about who the front three are.
Right.
So,
and if Barcelona can do it with 55-year-old Robert Lewandowski,
right,
then anybody can do it.
I mean, for sure. But I also think, like, to me, I don't care about pressing as an ideology as much. Like if you play compact, defensive, counter-attacking football, but you do it well, I'm all in. Like if that works, it works. But we can't even do that. We can't, because we've tried the compact mid-block conservative football, and even still, it doesn't mean you're absolved of running, and you're still getting bypassed easily.
That was Carlo's calling card. Right. I remember vividly. I was at Stamford Bridge when Real Madrid played Chelsea in the Champions League 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Is that the Benzema brace?
Yeah. 25 minutes in, I was like, Frank Lampard has clearly told his team, do not pass the ball to the top of the penalty area because Madrid will steal it and go and score. He was terrified. It was like there was a no-go zone at the top of the penalty area because that was the way that Carlo played, and it worked. And it was like counterattacking football is the best way to play now. The game evolves every 2 or 3 years now. It evolves so fast that it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. And
it swings, it'll come back, right?
Yeah.
And actually, there's an argument to be made that this team with this incredible athleticism and speed could run some sort of counterattack. But I agree that that's actually not. Like, I don't think that's going to work right now.
No.
Well, I mean, and it's funny, like reflecting now, I feel like this was something I was so wrong about, because when we signed Mbappe, I was like, how could this not work? You just added this guy to the Champions League winning team. Now, all of a sudden, you can play murder teams in transition with Mbappe and Vini and Jude. Like, it's going to be lights out. And I was wrong. And I think part of it is that the offense also wasn't as efficient. Like, we've had, how many times last season, did we see like 3-on-1s, 4v2 transition attacks, and then the last pass is just the wrong decision, wrong execution, all this stuff. And I'm kind of amazed that it went like, I don't know if you guys remember Matt on the podcast, like sometime in October, November, said that Mbappe and Vini won't win the Champions League because they don't defend. And they called him a madman. And I'm like, that doesn't sound so crazy now. And look, I
think it's wrong to say Vini doesn't defend.
No, I agree, but I do think that it is fair to say that when they're together, the problem does compound. But I mean, like, what are you going to do in this situation? By all accounts, Xabi Alonso loves Mbappe, and for good reason. The guy is offensive supernova. Like he's still like, he just walks around and he puts up 45 goals. Like, how did that happen? He just put up 45. And we're sitting here like thinking like he's the problem. And so he's obviously unbelievably gifted to be putting up those numbers. But in the end, no matter how much people want to say, because this is, I don't know if you guys are aware, but on Twitter, if you guys are there, it's a weird place.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be with real human beings in the room that are like actually having real conversations. But online, there's an Mbappe cult, right? As there is a Vini cult, as everybody has their cult. But right now, it's just Mbappe and Vini fans just going back and forth. And if you say something critical about one of them, that's it. You're canceled, right? And with Mbappe, the thing that they say is always, who cares if he doesn't defend? He's Mbappe. He's putting up 40, 50 goals. And I think no matter how you spin it, if the team doesn't have a solid defensive structure, all those goals you're not going to be able to outscore your opponents on a consistent basis, and it's not sustainable. And I think that's where Xabi is going to have an unbelievably challenging time to figure that out.